So,
Yeah. Welcome to L&D 360 Insight Trends and Best Practices from L&D Professions. And today we are honored to have Bhushan Kulkarni with us for this podcast. And Bhushan is an author of the book The Irresistible Manager: Managing, Leading, and Thriving in a Disrupted World, a compelling guide for professionals navigating today's volatile and uncertain workplace. A thought leader in learning, talent development, leadership, Bhushan leads capability building at ICICI Lombard, a leading general insurance company in India. He is a professional certified coach, PCC from ICF, an endorsed facilitator from IAF, and a lifelong learner. A sought after speaker at national and international forum, Bhushan empowers leaders with insight rooted in practice, empathy, and transformation. Welcome, Bhushan, to L&D 360.
thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Bhushan. So, what we are going to do, we are going to have a conversation around learning and development. So, most of our audience is from L&D background. So, we are curious to get insight from your rich experience. So, I've listed down a couple of questions based on your background, your experience, and we'll have that conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Game for that.
Okay. So here goes the first. Yeah, thank you. So the first one, so over the last decades, how have you seen the role of learning and development evolve from training delivery to becoming a strategic capability builder in organization?
Oh, that's a very interesting question and most pertinent question in today's time. Um, you know, um, and you answered that. The question has the answer in it. So, from training delivery to capability building architects. That's the journey, especially the L&D teams have seen over the past decade. Now, let me, as I reflect in responding to this question, I remember one leadership program that we did few years back with some other organization that I was a part of, and it was a 2-day program, and the program was conceptualized well. It was delivered at a nice place, and we thought we did a great job. We will change the world now because we thought we'll change the leaders and they will eventually change the world. The feedback was good. The response, they spoke to their managers quite highly about the program, and we were very happy. After 15 days, what we saw was the same leaders restoring to their old habits, the same kind of meetings that they were conducting, the same kind of challenges that they had and all. And then when we stepped back, we reflected. We said there is something that was not right. And one of the discoveries that we have had then was training cannot be just an event, or it cannot be just an episode. It has to be a series, like the web series in today's
Yeah,
language. So you cannot stop at one episode. Yeah, it doesn't work. So that was one very important discovery that we
yeah,
have had. So from delivery to capability building
yeah,
needs that as a
yeah,
consistent bridge. Yeah.
yeah,
The second one is, rather than focusing only on programs, okay, what program do I want to deliver? I'm seeing in progressive organizations,
yeah,
the shift is becoming from programs to performance. Yeah.
yeah,
So L&D professionals are really looking at saying, what parameter of this performance can I influence, or can this
yeah,
program influence? Programs still have
yeah,
its own charm.
yeah,
We still need to have the nuts and bolts of
yeah,
how to construct a program,
yeah,
and there's good amount of learning science which will definitely not go out of fashion.
yeah,
So there is a science behind it, but how you apply that science over the past decade, that has changed. And the third and the most important, which summarizes this, is we are moving beyond content.
mm,
Yeah. And where are we moving towards? So when I say beyond content, it is context plus culture.
yeah,
So after that reflection of that program that I was talking to you, we said, okay, we delivered the content. Now, how
mm,
do we move to context and how do we set the culture?
yeah,
So we said, okay, there are periodic engagements that we may want to have with these managers to understand what kind of problem are they facing when they're trying to apply these concepts on the job, and to engage with their managers, saying how can they stay invested in that journey when people are facing difficulties. So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, lots have changed. So content moving to context plus
Yeah.
culture. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. So, one thing which you have highlighted is definitely it stays with me is, that it's not an event, it's like a series of events which brings a desired change. And one event just create that spark to change. So it's like,
Yeah,
that starter motor, you just give that spark and it start.
correct.
So, and over a period of time, it create that visible change. So yeah,
Absolutely. And then it says how it has shifted. So let me
yeah,
just kind of summarize that कि किताबों से सीख तो लिया बहुत कुछ, किताबों से सीख तो लिया बहुत कुछ, पर जिंदगी ने कहा अब उसे जी के दिखा। असली सीख तो वही है जो काम में नजर आए. So I think that shift is
yeah.
something that we've seen in the last 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. I didn't know that you're a poet also.
Although I'm trying to, I mean, I don't do that, but then,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah.
it
No, no, wonderfully
really helps.
summarized that.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So, moving to the next one, Bhushan, you've spoken about moving L&D professionals from order takers to agenda shapers.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what mind shift is required for L&D professionals to influence business strategy instead of only executing training program?
So yeah, one of the, and that's a very important shift, in fact, for any and every L&D professional. Uh, you know, uh, so from what training can I offer you? I mean, we
Mm.
need to stop that question, asking that question, and what we need to start asking instead is what problem do you want me to solve for you?
Yeah,
So when you engage with the business stakeholders,
yeah,
that is one of the very important challenges and the opportunity that you need to really look at. So I'll just share one reflection. So
yeah,
when one of the business teams came to us earlier, and they said, we have a time management problem. Can you design something around time management for us? And we designed very promptly because we took that order, in that sense, and we thought we were
yeah,
doing a great job. So while we constructed time management principles, and nothing wrong in it, because that in itself is a learning, and we need those
yeah,
framework structures, etc.
yeah,
What we realized during the workshop is the team did not have the time management problem per se.
yeah,
The core problem was decision friction amongst different
mm,
teams, and
yeah,
that was delaying the decision that they had to deliver to some
yeah,
other dependent
yeah,
functions or their
yeah,
partners or for their
yeah,
customers. Now the problem was something different, and
yeah,
hence we realized that L&D can fail if you solve the wrong problem
mm,
in a right way.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so identifying the problem well
yeah,
is something that is crucial, and hence,
yeah,
staying invested in proper training need analysis or training need diagnostics
yeah,
becomes extremely important. And
yeah,
often I have seen L&D professionals undermining the value of investing into training
yeah,
need analysis
yeah,
less. So they do
yeah,
that job
yeah,
not as greatly as we should
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Then the next important stage is design. So, and particularly in now, when you're talking of sometimes complete virtual, sometimes complete physical,
yeah,
sometimes hybrid. So these three are different mediums in which we can disseminate, the learning, and they have their own rules. So have you
so
really understood, and are you able to
yeah,
define which medium
yeah,
is most effective
yeah,
for that design, and
yeah,
follow the design principles accordingly is a very
yeah,
important question one needs to
yeah,
answer. And then the delivery mechanisms.
yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely
so,
true.
so what needs to shift from order taker to order shaper is these three, four things. And once we
Yeah,
are able to start working in the direction, I think the evolution to becoming a L&D leader
yeah,
starts quite
yeah,
effortlessly.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it just reminded me of one of the practice we use while our consulting to organization, and this is a evolved model. I'm sure you might have heard about it, the 60 methodology, where you start with defining
Yeah.
the problem
Yes,
in itself.
yes.
then
Yes.
designing the solution,
Correct.
then delivery. And most of the people stop at delivery, and in fact, the transformation or the transition start after delivery. So it's that.
Absolutely. I agree.
So yeah, so it's like then you drive, you deploy, and the most important, the last part is that you document. So
Correct.
you don't have to
Correct.
reinvent the wheel again and again.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
so
Correct.
in this, the crucial stage is the first, even we also face uh, as an external partner most of the time, because to us, the requirement comes in the form of a need. Okay,
Mm,
this is the program. We want you to execute, send outlines, send this thing and that thing. But
correct.
more, and then we never go and just simply send that. We just ask, okay, first help us to understand where the need has arisen from.
Mm.
How do you
Mm.
have come to this need? Like, is this a
Correct.
calendar program or is it come from a business need? And if it has come from business, can you help us to connect with them? So, so that conversation, yeah. So that kind of thing help to define the problem statement. Yeah. So yeah, completely aligned with
Yeah,
that. So
I
moving,
agree.
yeah, yeah. So moving to the next one. So again, it's like AI everywhere. So I can't miss this question. So with AI transforming workplace, how do you see AI changing the way organization designing learning, experiencing, and building capability?
So, lots have started changing and lots will change in the times to come. Now,
Yeah,
if you really look at it, till 2022, we did not have the chatbot as we know it, while AI has been around for quite some time. I mean,
yeah,
1950, 1960 onwards, while we may not have known it as AI
yeah,
then, but it still existed. But what changed or what is changing quite rapidly is something that is happening from 2022 ever since the
yeah,
launch of ChatGPT
yeah,
chatbot. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, and a lot of progress has happened in 4 years.
yeah.
So they say a couple of years back, uh, I mean, it struggled to solve elementary level problems. Yeah.
Hmm.
2 years back,
Yeah,
and 2 years is relatively a smaller time in such kind of discovery and development.
yeah,
Uh, a year back, it was able to solve elementary level problems. If I were to take maths as just one example,
yeah, yeah.
now some of the toughest problems that are unsolved in the world, 10 of them were identified by scientists, and that
Hmm.
was given to one of the large language models, and
Hmm.
it was able to solve 7 out of 10. Now
Wow.
extrapolate that speed of thing into learning and development, into the organizations and all. Yeah. So it will have that impact on it. So then what does it leave L&D professionals with and the organizations that they are serving? Okay. So that's an important question. And then I go back to the research that I was doing while I was writing this book. And you mentioned about it while
Yeah,
introducing me, The
yeah,
Irresistible Manager,
yeah.
Managing, Leading, and Thriving in a Disrupted World. One of the sections in that book is talking about, managers and the coming wave of AI.
Hmm.
And the question I was trying to address through that research and practitioner perspective was, how does a manager, first of all, take care of himself or herself as an individual? Because they have their
Hmm.
own anxieties and
Yeah,
these things. And
yeah.
second, how do they take care of the ecosystem that they are responsible for? People,
Right,
systems, structures, and all.
right.
And one framework that I came across is given by Harvard business professor,
Hmm.
Professor Das Narayan Das.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he talks about three most powerful things. And I think if we are able to kind of build our capability architecture around this
Hmm.
framework,
Hmm.
it should really serve a good purpose. Despite of the frenzy of speed with which things are changing, this
Hmm.
would still give some amount of stability to my mind. So what is this framework? It talks about PPA.
Hmm.
One is predictive.
Hmm.
So predictive is one leg. The other leg is prescriptive. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the third one is autonomous.
Hmm.
So predictive is, I mean, there are a lot of applications that organizations are experimenting with, saying,
Yeah.
okay, can you predict? So I have this
Hmm.
kind of a data. I am feeding this data into you.
Hmm.
You try and do some data churning for me and
Hmm.
predict what is likely to happen basis the past data.
Yeah.
So if that is the progression that your organization wants, can you
Mm.
equip as learning and development professionals
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
and your ecosystem within the organization to be
Yeah.
good at that?
Yeah.
So using analytics as an intelligence available with people, how can
Mm.
you help them accelerate this journey through predictive capabilities of this thing?
Yeah.
Prescriptive is okay.
Mm.
Now you have this data. What are you telling us to do? So once you, so can you then help people get the refined output, which is where
Mm.
that prompt engineering, context engineering, all that kind of a capability comes into this framework. So,
Yeah.
so to be able to prescribe, you need to have refined output. For that, you
Yeah.
need to give capable input. And hence
Yeah.
your people need to be capable to be able to do that. And that's where your job
Mm.
comes in as L&D professionals. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
third one is autonomous. The machine is able to think, the machine is able to do. How do you build human in the loop so that there
Mm.
are necessary governance guardrails uh, that the organization wants are enforced or are built in into that capability structure? So I think this three legged framework can really serve a good purpose in building capability architectures for the organization in present and in the near future.
True, true. And thank you for giving that acronym. It's like simplified.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and completely relate with that. And in fact, when we work with diverse industries like e-commerce, and recently we were partnering with a very large law firm,
Mm.
and they approached with a particular problem statement, and then they said, okay, no, we have reached to a stagnancy. And then we asked, okay, define that stagnancy. So there were multiple data, and I was surprised the kind of data points they had. And it just took me less than 5 seconds to put that dump into Claude and give them the right prompt so that I understand that those technical things in the simple way, and
Yeah.
I can propose some solution around that.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I was completely surprised with the insight which came. And when I was speaking their language, they also got a comfortable, okay, now you understand the law business. Like, I don't understand the law business. I just simplified using the AI. So
Correct.
so yeah, it is helping a lot to fast pace the execution. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Context still remains with people. It
Yeah.
has to remain with people. And as an L&D professional, I think it's our responsibility to uh, teach that.
Yeah.
Saying everything can't be outsourced. You can't
Yeah.
outsource your thinking to a model.
Yeah.
You still need to
Absolutely.
know where do you want to go, and
Yeah.
then you tell the coordinates, and the AI can help you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Moving to the next one, and
Yeah.
it's one of my favorites. So mostly learning, if we look at, it's still built around classroom, and it's my favorite. Like, I still believe in classroom learning because
Yeah.
it gives opportunity to, not only that, it gives that space to think.
Yeah.
It gives that particular space to think,
Correct.
collaborate,
Correct.
and ideate, give insight. But the biggest challenge is the moment people move outside the classroom, they are in their natural ecosystem. And how do organization uh, continue that whatever the learning has been in that classroom, how did it translate into the actual uh, working environment? So
Yeah, and thanks for that question, because this has been a very consistent question and a very difficult one
yeah,
to crack. And each
yeah,
organization, every geography, every industry,
yeah,
depending upon the where they are on the maturity curve,
yeah.
um, tries to answer this question in their way. Okay, so the combinations are going to be extremely different for
Mm,
different organizations. But what I have seen, while I coach senior executives, while I coach managers, while I curate leadership programs, while I interact with innumerable people for my own learning, there are two, three things that remain consistently common across these variants. What are those common things? The first and foremost, and that has been my conviction as well ever since I wrote this book, is can you make manager as a pivot and as an
Mm,
ambassador for
mm,
learning?
mm.
Strategy gets worked out at the top. A lot of deliberations, ideations
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Translation of that strategy right
Mm,
up to the ground happens through your middle management, through your manager. If the manager is not equipped,
mm,
if you don't build capabilities of a manager
mm,
uh, in a manner that how can he or she in an engaging manner communicate to his ranks and files, if that capability is not built, I think the
mm.
strategy breaks there. Okay,
Absolutely.
so beyond classroom, if you have to go, classroom
Mm,
definitely has its own importance. Yeah, it could be a virtual congregation, it could be a physical congregation. What we are saying is group of people coming together to
mm,
debate, deliberate, ideate, ask
mm,
questions, clarify
mm,
questions. Now
mm,
that has its own charm,
mm,
right? That is the way we have historically learned.
mm,
And irrespective of whatever technological advancement you're talking about, that
mm.
is not going to change overnight.
Absolutely.
So you need to figure out mechanisms of how do you bring these people together, and
Mm,
some people are calling it as communities of practice,
mm.
or communities and all different ways. But
Yeah,
the core is bringing people together for debates, challenges, clarifications,
yeah,
discussions.
yeah,
The learning enhances. Now,
yeah,
my point is manager as a common, as a pivot point. So spend energy in developing a manager.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's one. Second, embed learning in the workflow.
yeah,
So when you bring people together, can you bring in those caselets where people can
yeah,
relate to their core problems, they can
yeah,
discuss, reflect,
yeah,
put it on the table and figure out solutions. Yeah,
yeah.
so that's another one. Third is if you can shift from attendance measurement to measuring outcomes.
Mm,
Yeah, so and there is a difference between output and an outcome. I
yeah,
am
yeah.
specifically saying, can you pivot yourself as a learning and development
Mm,
professional to measure
mm,
outcomes? Yeah,
mm,
these three, no doubt attendance is important,
mm.
and that becomes the first
Yeah,
step. If people don't
yeah,
get into that experiential environment, they won't be able
yeah.
to kind of but that
Mm,
can't be the start and end of your
mm.
measurement,
Yeah,
is the limited point.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I often then tend to follow this structure called as flow.
Mm,
Okay,
mm,
where
mm,
F stands for feedback.
mm, mm,
Okay, L stands for learning nudges.
mm,
So once your classroom is done, you
mm.
get the feedback of what worked, what did not work, maybe after a week, after 15 days. And feedback is like engagement with that audience to understand. So feedback. Okay. Then the other one is learning nudges, is what I just shared.
Yeah.
Then O is on the job. Can you construct
Mm,
on the job learning opportunities for people and reflection
yeah.
opportunities on the job? And the final one, which brings me to the point of W, which is weekly reflection. So flow.
Mm,
F is feedback,
mm,
L is learning nudges,
yeah.
O is on the job, and W is weekly reflections. If you're able to kind of follow
Mm,
this structure, you will be able to go beyond
mm,
classroom, and you will
yeah.
be able to kind of help learners retain, reproduce, apply,
Yeah.
experiment these learnings
Yeah.
in a much better way than
Yeah.
classroom alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. It's a very simple method to implement. Yeah.
Yeah, someone
Yeah.
told me when we were kind of working around flow, saying
Mm,
बदलाव नारे से नहीं आता है.
mm,
बदलाव नारे से नहीं आता है, आदत से आता है.
yeah.
राइट, रोज की छोटी सी बात, रोज की छोटी सी बात कल की बड़ी पहचान बन जाती है.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, so daily
Correct.
practices,
Yeah. Yeah. Daily and and it's the most boring work to do that, but it's produced tremendous results. Yeah.
rituals,
Yeah.
and cannot emphasize more on building ritual
Yeah.
capabilities within the
Yeah.
organization, within
Yeah.
teams,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever
So
those rituals could be.
yeah, yeah. So, and one of the practice which we are doing for a long time, and we saw a good amount of transition. One was whenever participant goes through a program, So what we asked their manager, okay, what are the three behavioral indicators you, you tell us that you want them to display?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we used to collect the data point and summarize them into three behavioral indicators. And after the program, there are small nudges, like you have also highlighted on the nudges part. And then, so uh, we used to do it at a cycle of 15, 30, 60, 90 days. And they have to just answer three questions. One is, is the participant displaying the required behavior? If it is tick, means the training is moved outside the classroom. Second is not observe. Not observe means he or she has learned, but they are not displaying.
Yeah.
That gives an opportunity to have a conversation. And we used to
Right.
give couple of template that how in that template how you can have the conversation so that person gets an opportunity to display that.
Correct.
And second, third one is there's no opportunity, means there were not opportunities created enough for that participant to display. Again, it
True.
gives that manager, I need to give them the space to display that
Correct.
this thing. So this is a simple thing, but and it gives the results. Yeah,
It does. It
yeah,
does. And
yeah,
that is one of the reasons why
yeah,
uh, some organizations are
yeah,
they do something called as 180-degree or 270-degree feedback, or sometimes
yeah,
360-degree feedback
yeah,
for the programs. Not all
yeah,
programs can qualify for that, or you may not want to do it for all programs, but typically those programs where you want to measure behavior change
yeah,
is when a 180-degree or a 270-degree or a 360-degree feedback
yeah,
helps. So
yeah,
self is 90-degree.
yeah,
Then my team giving is me plus my team, hence 180-degree. Then me, my team, and my manager is 270-degree. And me, my team, my manager, and my peers is 360-degree. So depending
mm,
upon how complex that is, how much time do you have at hand, what kind of outcomes you have agreed with the business teams, uh, you can choose, pick and choose. But this is extremely powerful to measure behavioral change. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, 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 true. So again, one of the favorite among the L&D community is the ROI.
Yeah.
So how L&D teams can measure the real business impact of learning initiatives?
So, you know what? I am going to take a bit contrarian view here. We shouldn't uh, get into a desperation of measuring every program or defining every
Mm,
program onto the ROI metric. Uh, okay.
yeah,
And I have often seen L&D professionals getting into that rut of becoming, the learning accountants rather than
mm,
focusing on the behavioral shift. We are not learning
mm,
accountants. Okay.
mm,
ROI definitely is important, no doubt. No
mm,
one is denying that. But why do you have to constantly worry and try and force fit everything that you are doing
mm,
into the ROI space?
mm,
Let me give you two examples of it.
mm,
So one program was related to your compliance,
mm,
okay, regulatory compliance. Okay,
mm,
the other program was sales. Okay,
mm,
now imagine if I apply the same ROI metric or a definition to these two programs, it
mm.
won't work.
True.
So if return on investment is an accretion or an addition to something, to an X amount or a
Yeah,
X value, right?
yeah,
A compliance program cannot qualify there.
yeah.
But just because it cannot qualify, it may have some other measurement metric for sure. But
Mm,
just because it doesn't qualify into accretion or an addition,
mm,
particularly onto the revenue piece,
mm.
doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. That's the
Yeah,
first thing rather we should do. Because if
yeah,
something goes wrong, then the damage it can do is
yeah,
disproportionate.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
how do you put these two programs
Mm,
under ROI lens?
mm,
So first and foremost, first principle that I think learning professionals should do is to decide which programs will go into ROI. And ROI, by ROI I mean value addition in terms of
yeah,
revenue, top line,
yeah,
bottom line, whatever you
yeah,
want to define,
yeah,
right? And which programs they may not want to do,
yeah,
and that they should have the ability to communicate to stakeholders.
yeah.
So sorry if you wanted to hear something else, but this is what is
No, no,
my
this is very
position.
practical and this
Number
is
one.
how it is supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and number two, then the second point,
Yeah.
the for the programs that you decide to go for ROI calculation, then there are methods.
Yeah.
There are steps involved in that. So
Yeah.
you define the outcome. Okay, you define what kind of behavioral changes that they would expect. You define, you sanitize that outcome purely from the learning side, because tomorrow again people will claim, saying, how do you claim that this kind of an ROI got generated only because of the learning efforts? So there is a
Mm. Mm.
sanitization method there,
Yeah.
and then attribute a monetary value to that sanitized effort. So there are
Yeah.
scientific
Yeah.
methods to do that, but
Yeah.
not all programs again can
Yeah.
qualify that. And the
Yeah.
third, so first one, decide which one
Yeah.
will go for ROI.
Yeah.
Second, define a scientific method,
Yeah.
right? And third is, and that we learned the hard way. So we defined that, we took the
Yeah.
output, and we started showing that Excel or floating that Excel, and
Mm.
nothing changed. I mean, the
Mm.
leadership that we wanted to impress, that did not in one of
Mm.
our
Mm.
programs. And I said,
Mm.
what's not working here?
Mm.
And then we said, okay, only Excel won't work.
Mm.
What you need to do is to make sense of that Excel
Mm.
and create and tell impact stories,
Mm.
not just
Yeah.
data.
Yeah.
So that's the third.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think impact stories are very powerful,
yeah,
and they are, see, a lot of things can't be measured. And you really mentioned, like, no,
correct,
person has gone through a self-development program. There are hundreds of things improve in his or her personal life.
correct.
These can't be measured in any metrics. But when a person narrate that story,
Yeah,
that this
yeah,
was because of that moment I learned in that classroom with that
correct,
faculty. This is where I applied, and this helped
correct.
me in my personal life, and
Yes,
which created a more balance in myself. So
yeah,
these will come only through impact stories. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. 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 So coming to your coaching experience, you have been coaching a
Mm,
lot of leaders. So
yeah.
what are the top three skills leaders must develop to stay relevant?
That's a very interesting one.
Yeah.
And so irrespective of the geography, so
Yeah.
while every leader have their own uh, challenges and own journey to unlock, and you as a coach get the privilege of holding that space for them.
Yeah.
But if I were to synthesize three common things, first thing that comes to my mind is sense making.
Hmm.
The ability of a leader to make sense of whatever is happening around. Yeah. Can I make sense of the data? Can I make sense of the chaos? Can I make sense of the uncertainty,
Hmm.
and all those things? And if I'm able to inculcate that habit, now that's a lifelong journey, by the way,
Hmm.
but their ability to make sense of the surroundings, yeah, is I think one of the most important things today's
Hmm.
leader,
Hmm.
um, and tomorrow's leader
Yeah.
should develop and inculcate. And for that, they should definitely get a good qualified coach, because individually practicing this could be a challenge. So they
Yeah.
would need a sparring partner,
Yeah.
and the coach can do that job
Yeah.
to do that. The
Yeah.
second most important thing
Yeah.
is listening. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because as a leader, you have got hardwired to give
Yeah.
solutions. You have
True.
grown your entire career, you
True.
have built in
Yeah.
giving answers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have to shift the gear.
Yeah.
Can you just
Yeah.
slow down, settle
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
and listen to people and
Yeah.
imagine the magic that it can create?
Yeah.
We learned it. So of course, during my coach training journey, the
Hmm.
my teacher grilled this into us,
Hmm.
saying your ability to listen, and
Hmm.
if you claim that you are a good listener, and he challenged us enough number of times for us to discover that we were not good listeners, and we are,
Hmm.
it's a lifelong journey again.
Hmm.
But I've seen one of the managers or one of the senior leaders who I was coaching. He said, "Look, I used to jump when people talked because I had solutions, because
Yeah.
I was able to think two steps
Yeah.
ahead of what the other person was talking. And I
Yeah.
had the temptation and an urge to
Yeah.
talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
But the moment the coach kind of helped me do that,
Yeah.
listening,
Yeah.
is when I started listening. And one of the quietest person
Yeah.
walked up to me one day, gave
Yeah.
one idea, which he's been observing from his market,
Yeah.
and that turned out to be a 2000 million Indian rupees opportunity for our business.
Hmm.
Imagine 200 crore rupees,
Yeah.
one idea.
Yeah.
overnight. Now, how do you calculate ROI to our previous question? You
Yeah.
can't, but that's a journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And this is remind me of the Otto Scharmer four level of listening. So very powerful model if
Yeah.
somebody wanted to explore that. Yeah. And one this today morning we were having a review with one of our clients, and
Mhm.
it's a combination of a coaching and mentoring journey. So the the promoter, when we were reviewing how it was going, and then we introduced something called as a daily meetings, which was not happening. So he said, "No, I've been doing from last 2 months and nothing is changing." So I
Mm.
asked, "So can you take me through how the daily meetings happen?" And say, "Yeah, I call everybody and I tell them what they needs to do, and then they say, and then next day I take a review, and then
Mm.
nothing happens." When I call more daily meetings, you even don't have to speak a single word. It is
Yeah.
your team they have to speak. And I saw that pause moment on his face, and then he realized, okay, yeah, this is what. And this reminded me that listening is so important and so
Yeah.
difficult.
It
And
is difficult. Yes.
specifically, the higher you go up in the organization, and you are so hardwired on telling. So yeah, it's a very important skill, but very difficult when it comes to
True.
implementation. And
I
I've seen
agree.
very, very few leaders who've been able to practice that. And those who practice are like at the next level of the leadership.
And they experience magical moments.
Yeah, yeah,
And every leader can have their own stories of what magical moment have they experienced
yeah,
by surely believing in that process, in that journey. Some people may
yeah,
experience it in 6 months, some people may take a year,
yeah,
and all, but they experience for sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So going to the third last one. So as an executive coach and learning leader, how do you see coaching complementing traditional L&D approaches in leadership development?
Oh, they complement supremely well.
Yeah.
So training builds skill,
Mm,
okay, and coaching builds awareness.
mm,
Now combine these two,
mm.
and it's a perfect recipe for transformation.
Yeah, well,
So let me share one reflection. I was, talking to one of the senior leaders,
mm,
and he assumed that leadership position at the
mm,
same in the same country,
mm,
uh, and these were his colleagues some time back, and now he was their boss in that
mm,
country, and he had that absolute discomfort, saying, "Am I their friend? Am I their boss?"
mm,
And all. And that was a problem with which that coaching journey began.
mm,
Uh, Over a period of time, we of course went through the journey, whatever it was, and we discovered saying, okay, you can be a connector
mm,
to begin with,
mm,
and you have to draw a line where you can be a friend.
mm,
How can you be a connector?
mm,
And a very less of boss. Now,
mm.
can you kind of combine these things together in your
Yeah,
personality? Because he was an, amiable kind of a person. So I said, okay,
yeah,
it has to suit your style.
yeah,
Suddenly, you don't change the gears. You can't,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
shouldn't. Um, and then when we kind of added drip by drip
Mm,
those shifts, it was a
mm,
beautiful shift that this
mm,
person has experienced. So imagine
mm,
the formal training that this person has gone through after becoming a leader that he was.
mm,
Plus, this was followed by a good coaching, deep exploration,
mm,
and those shifts. So skills plus self-awareness is equal to magical transformation, and that's where
mm.
the training and coaching
Yeah,
can really help.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it creates a magic. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, the second last one. So many young professions are entering L&D field today, and what capability should they develop if they want to become a strategic learning leaders in future?
That's a very important one to address. Now, I get the privilege of being invited to various conferences.
Mm,
Most of the times, go there as a learner, many a times as a speaker. Now, once you do your job as a speaker, you're the rest of the times you're a learner,
mm,
which is when you get an opportunity to speak to a lot of L&D professionals.
mm,
Uh, you know, and one of the things I have seen is uh, their unwillingness to really put themselves entirely into the process of
mm,
learning or taking it really easy, because they would
mm,
have seen things at a surface level, and they
mm,
assume that that is what it is,
yeah,
which it isn't. So
yeah,
hence I kind of created a coaching plus mentoring framework, which I
mm,
would like to call it as LEAP,
mm,
LEAP,
mm, mm,
where L stands for learning.
mm,
Can you get into the mode of
mm,
continuous learning? Now,
mm,
that's a shift which is a very difficult shift to have. So,
mm,
imagine if someone has moved into training from
mm,
sales,
mm,
or someone who has studied that one subject of L&D during their HR course,
mm, mm,
and now trying to establish their career, because it was some chapter, sometimes someone would have taught them, and they assume that L&D is
mm,
that chapter, which is not the case. Okay,
mm,
so how do you
yeah,
shift, how do you transition? So the first L is learning, continuous learning. And what
mm,
should you learn is
mm,
maybe for some other
yeah,
day, because this is not a master class, this is a podcast and I need to
mm,
be cognizant of the time. So the other one is
mm,
external perspective, E. So
mm,
E is external perspective.
mm,
Have a coach
mm,
and a mentor. Invest in yourself, time,
mm,
energy, money, whatever
mm,
it takes. Don't hesitate.
mm,
Yeah. So that's another one that you should have. So till the time you don't have someone holding your hand, giving their perspective
mm,
and coaching you into that space, you
mm,
will struggle. You will spend too much of a time in figuring it out and all, because there are just too many combinations today in this. And a mentor plus a coach just helps you, asides
yeah,
you or besides you,
yeah,
just helps you
yeah,
accelerate that journey. So for your own
yeah,
benefit, invest in yourself. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
A is acumen. A
mm,
lot of L&D professionals struggle there. Ask
mm,
anyone how does your business, or what business are you in, and how does your business make profit
mm,
or make
mm,
money. They will not be able to explain it to you.
mm,
Okay, so can you
yeah,
do that?
so,
Right,
mm,
and that's one of the reasons, and it's not about L&D professionals alone. Even managers have that
mm,
problem, and that's the
mm,
reason why I dedicated one of the chapters in my book
mm,
to business acumen. Can you develop acumen? And business acumen is one of them, and there are other kinds of acumens that you can
mm,
build, allied
yeah,
acumens,
yeah,
to be able to become a
true,
complete
yeah,
professional. So LEA. And P is problem solving. Are you really solving some problem, a real problem for a
yeah,
function, for a department, and eventually for the organization?
yeah,
And then constructing your learning structure around it. So if you follow LEAP, I think you're sorted.
yeah, yeah, mm, yeah, yeah,
So in
yeah.
fact, in
But
fact,
what's the P? P? What is the P? P? If you
P
can
is
repeat the
problem
P one,
solving. So P is
problem
problem
solving. Yeah,
solving. And
yeah,
that then tells me that
mm,
उड़ान तब तक सीमित है, उड़ान तब तक
mm,
सीमित है जब तक
mm,
आसमान समझ में ना आए। उड़ान तब तक
mm,
सीमित है जब तक आसमान समझ में ना आए, और आसमान समझने के लिए नजरिया बदलना पड़ता है.
mm,
So the moment you're able to do that,
yeah,
change your perspective,
no,
I think
yeah,
you will be able
yeah.
to
Yeah,
accelerate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, thank you for putting these words and summarizing it so well. So, in one sentence, you summarize so well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, going to the last one. So, if we
Yeah.
just look ahead, say 2035,
Mm.
what do you believe the role of L&D leaders will look like, and how should organization prepare today?
Hmm. How should organizations prepare today? So I think L&D will get embedded into every work stream, like electricity. You don't
Hmm.
have electricity as a separate unit within the houses,
Hmm.
but absence of it is something that you will know. So hence
Hmm. Yeah.
L&D will get into it. And
Hmm.
at one place I was, I wrote an article in ETHR World.
Hmm.
Out of the many, one of the articles I was reflecting upon is what the no economics Nobel Prize winners of 2025
Hmm.
can teach learning and development professionals or talent development
Hmm.
professionals.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the Trioka won the economics award, and there are two
Hmm.
theories that they combined, trying to answer
Hmm.
why some nations progress and why some nations don't. Now that's an age-old problem,
Hmm.
but two theories coming together to figure out was
mm,
unique. And then I was reflecting upon saying, can we learn some lessons from that?
mm, mm,
So, so one thing that came out is
mm,
creative disruption or creative destruction.
mm,
So I think L&D professionals, are you capable of doing that
mm,
for your own function and within the organization? And can you play a strategic role in that?
mm,
Creative destruction is not a complete destruction.
mm,
It's a selective destruction to reconstruct something far more beautiful.
mm,
So that is one. And the other C, so
mm,
first C is creative disruption or creative destruction.
mm,
And the other C is curiosity quotient. Can
mm,
you create more chief curiosity officers within
mm,
organizations? And for
mm,
that, you have to be one.
mm,
You have to lead it. And then you will be able to create within your function, allied
mm,
functions, and then expand that circle and all. But
mm,
that's a long drawn process.
mm,
But the point is, if you're able to get to these two C's really well over a
mm,
period of time, I think you'll be
mm,
able to not only serve yourself, but
mm,
to your profession, to your
mm,
unit,
mm,
and to your organization at large.
mm,
And beyond that, society at large, for sure.
mm. Yeah, yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. And I like this was the longest one, but it really, it was very engaging. I didn't felt like we just completed an hour almost.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah, so it was really beautiful, and I personally enjoyed. You put all the perspective with a very practical, profound, and the most important is simplifying it. No jargons,
Mm.
nothing. You simplified it, so it speaks a lot that a lot of work with what you have done. It summarizes in this podcast. So thank you,
I'm so
Ushan.
glad. I'm so
Thank you
glad,
so
Viren,
much
you
for your
found.
yeah yeah.
I'm
So
so
thank.
glad that you found great value. I'm so happy.
No, no, absolutely. It was one of the best. And yeah, thank you for your time. And I'm sure to all our listeners who are listening and who's going to watch it, you also got a lot of insight from this podcast. Do let us know what did you like in this podcast, and any ending word, Bhushan, for our listeners uh, before we conclude.
I mean, we have spoken enough. I think you just said that
Yeah,
this has been the longest.
yeah,
But as professionals, stay invested, even if it means you have to do that extra bit in terms of time, energy, money. It's worth its while, you know.
yeah,
A lot of research indicate that if you cultivate this something called as learning agility,
yeah,
right? The chances of you growing multiplies 2x over a period of time.
yeah,
And it's a proven thing. So it's just not a belief. It's
yeah.
supported by data and science.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our listeners who have been with us through all these podcasts. And do let us know what kind of questions you want us to ask our guests. And till then, stay for the next episode. Thank you so much.